My sound is okay too, right?
And we're live.
Yeah, I think we're live.
Amazing. Okay. Well, thank you, Karlena, for dealing with all of the tech issues.
No worries, it's all a part of it. We can talk about it right now.
Great timing, because that's what we're going to be talking about. Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you because I've been getting a lot of questions, both from the Toronto Professional Women's Meetup group and both from local entrepreneurs that I've worked with, who are asking me to help them with virtual events. And
Yeah.
the first thing I say is, go ask Karlena, because that's not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
Live events, I don't know what to tell you. So I'm just excited to sit down with you today and just kind of dive a little bit deeper into all of it. And, just kind of share the issues like this that come up for people who are just starting out and are forced to pivot into online events right now. So just to kick it off, I'd love for you to introduce yourself and the BizMixer and kind of tell us a little bit about why you decided to start the BizMixer.
Okay, yeah. So hi, everyone. If you don't already know me, my name is Karlena. I'm the founder of Mini K Creations. So we basically work with professionals and organizations to help them connect with their audiences through live events. And I'm also the founder of the BizMixer, which is a community of creatives and entrepreneurs, primarily in the Peel region, that meet to learn and connect and grow together. We started that event, it's 2 years. Yeah, April was 2 years. Had big plans to have a big birthday celebration, but obviously weren't able to do that. And just was started out of a pain point for someone who lives in the suburbs of Mississauga, traveling downtown Toronto to go to all the cool events, because as we know, most of the cool stuff happens downtown, but that adds up. So parking and ticket prices and food and travel. So it became something costly in order for me to connect with other entrepreneurs. So I didn't really see that many options in my own neighborhood. So of course, because I'm in events, I just figured I'll just start my own thing. And since then, we've hosted over 22 events, had over 30 speakers, and I've met hundreds of entrepreneurs across Ontario and Canada. We've had people come as far as Vancouver on vacation, people as far as Newmarket and Niagara Falls. So we've been able to really connect with a lot of entrepreneurs and see collaborations happen. People have started businesses together. So it's just been a really great experience building a community and connecting.
Yeah, it's incredible what you've built in just a few years and kind of seeing that all come together. I agree. Like, I'm in Mississauga too. And I'm guilty of going downtown because my group is in Toronto.
Yeah.
It's just so nice to know that there is another option really close to home. For me to get to your events takes me like 20 minutes max.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really great idea, and it's very different from what you see in Toronto. One thing that I wrote about in the Femme Evolve article was just the atmosphere when I walked into your events. It was so warm, so welcoming. It's not always the same at Toronto events. Sometimes it's like loud and there's a lot going on. So
yeah, that's definitely another thing that I wanted to keep in mind when I was creating the event and the community, is really having a space where it's funny, because today we're celebrating a milestone with the BizMixer, but someone had commented that they feel like it's the best. There's no biz party like a BizMixer party. So it's like we create that environment where we have the DJ, we have music, we have food, we're high-fiving, we're hugging. And it's like creating that space where we can still have fun, build our businesses, and collaborate. So that warm environment that doesn't feel like you have to show up in a 3-piece suit or business casual. If you want to come in your ripped jeans and your Timbs, you're welcome. So just creating that space where a business owner or an entrepreneur doesn't look a certain way, and anyone's welcome to come as they are and really be a part of the community. So I think that was really important when I started it, and I'm glad that people get that sense when they come into the space.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, it's like you're still able to bring that online, which I think is really cool, and we'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But I've really enjoyed seeing how you're transitioning. So I'm excited to talk about that. My next question for you, talking about all the event stuff, is what do you miss most about live events?
Okay, being an extrovert and having a love language of quality time and physical touch. I missed the fist bumps, the hugs, the high fives, and getting to see people face to face in front of me. It definitely is the biggest thing that I miss. Really big on food at events, so I don't do events if there's no food. So doing this virtual thing with no food is really like hurting me inside, because I love to be able to share a meal. I think it's one of the best ways to build connections with people, is sharing a bit of yourself over a meal. I think it's psychologically and biologically. When you think about family dinners and people meeting together and breaking bread together, it's a huge part of us from a human perspective of how we can connect. So I really miss that part of doing events. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing I miss is the high fives, the hugs, and the food.
Yeah, it really gives you that like family sort of feel. So
yeah,
I agree, and I'm all for good food too.
Yeah.
I go to an event and I spend, even if I'm not spending anything, I still expect a little something.
Yeah, a little 1-2 snack or something, you know? Yeah.
I'm disappointed if it's like I've spent a bunch and I'm like, where's all the good food? Like that's always my priority is like really good food.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah. True. I did a post this morning actually talking about, because I wanted to kind of get everyone excited about us chatting today. And I talked about some of the benefits of virtual events, but I'd be interested to hear from you. What benefits have you seen so far since you've transitioned virtually?
Yeah, I would say for both clients and for the BizMixer, broadening that demographic. We've had people that have been watching our event series for over 2 years that just couldn't attend based on being super far or just the transportation. So some people that don't have a car, or we always get DMs saying like, can you like open a chapter in Newmarket or here or Etobicoke or whatever? And like, I love you all, but the point was to kind of keep it in that area. And obviously like future, I'd love to open up chapters and have chapter leaders. But it's really opened up the space for those people that really enjoy the community and the brand of the BizMixer to be able to be a part of the event virtually and not have the commute. It's really just like putting on a shirt from the top to the bottom, not gonna lie, wearing sweatpants right now, and being able to tune in and like from the comfort of their home, really breaking down barriers of accessibility has been really great, and going across countries. So we've seen people tune in from the Caribbean and the UK, all over have tuned into the BizMixer events because now they're able to just dial in. So it's kind of from an event organizer perspective, something that moving forward, we want to think about hybrid events. I know we're going to talk about that a bit later, but just creating that accessibility to people now where they can tune in from a click of a button and with a Wi-Fi connection, and there's no other barriers. So it's been good.
That's incredible. Like all the way in the Caribbean, there's people tuning in.
Yeah. When we did a shout out of all the countries that we were aware of people coming, we said Canada, US, and Jamaica tuned in. Wow. And someone DM'd us and they're like, and some people from the UK, I tuned in from the UK. So people were actually like telling us all the other places that they were tuning in from, which was super cool. Yeah.
I find that so interesting because when I started out with my business and just kind of like the whole networking scene, I was in a lot of international groups actually. So I now have business friends that are in South Africa, England, and all over the United States. So it's like knowing that your event could provide them that space too, to make those international connections is huge. Like you go on a trip, I mean, when all this is over, of course, you have a friend now that you can chat business with, that you can meet at a co-working space. Like it's really cool just to think about all the possibilities.
It's super cool. And even for me, like I have a lot of friends in the States in different areas. Like even our next event, I think we have 3 different countries represented for our speakers. So like being able to open up that where I've always wanted to collaborate with my friends in Chicago or California or overseas, but like they like the cost of flying them in and putting them up and everything is obviously like costly, but now to be able to say, hey, we can finally collaborate on something through a virtual space has been a great opportunity.
Right. Yeah, I definitely see that. Just the going globally and expanding like that, it could do a lot for your business too. So
yeah, for sure.
My next question for you is kind of ironic that I'm asking this. What are some challenges that you've seen in transitioning virtually?
Tech not working. We went through that actually right before we hopped on this call. Tried and true platforms, sometimes they don't work out for you. I know for me.
Out of everything down.
Right? And I mean, like I have struggles with other platforms too, but yeah, sometimes it may work all up until the point of when you need to go live and then things won't work. So one thing that's really important for me in my career and line of work is really being able to find solutions on the fly and stay cool and make it happen. And that's what we did. So we went from Zoom to another literally went to another platform, gave the suggestion, walked you through it, and we're here. So I think it's just really important to have that plan B, C, D, E, F, G in place because sometimes technology won't work, and sometimes in real life it happens too. I know we had done an event series where we talked about our worst nightmares with events, and I had an event where the organizer thought my event started 2 hours later than it did, and the venue was locked, and I had to start my event in a parking lot. Sometimes that happens. Like you show up and you're like, okay, like it's like 10 minutes to the event. My guests are starting to arrive. We're supposed to be doing this activity and we're still outside. So having to go to your attendees and be like, hey, so like we're waiting for the key. We'll be back. And then it's like, we're 10 minutes past the time. And I'm like, okay, Karlena, you got to figure out how you're doing this. So literally just threw the back of our trunk up. Our volunteers were there. I said, listen, the first activity we're doing it in the parking lot on the glass window. So we typically do a community wall activity where we have people talk about what they do and what they need help with. So we literally had these sticky notes pasted on the window, the glass window outside of this venue, hoping that no one would call the police on us, that there's like 15 to 20 people just like loitering in the parking lot beside a sign that says not to loiter. So you just have to be able to find solutions, and just having a really good community and team and people around you to help and support really makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, it was crazy that you literally helped me with that in like under 2 minutes. Because I screen shared and we figured it out. And I think that's kind of what everyone needs right now, is just that second sort of brain to help them. It's a new space for all of us. And as understanding as everyone is about the tech issues that I've been having and other people have been having, I still feel almost guilty sometimes.
Yeah.
I said I would be there at 1:30, it's 1:40. Like it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I totally get it. Get it. And I think that's part of the beauty of this time right now is people are definitely more understanding. But what I like to tell people as well is like people are understanding, but still be prepared, because I think there's a difference between being like, people will understand and like still have a plan. So even when I work with clients and people that need support, we plan out by like the minute to minute and like what needs to be put in terms of features from the platform. It's all templated out. So everyone kind of has this master plan that's usually 2 to 3 pages long. But that's how I do my events and I get my clients to do them, because everyone needs that information and you need to be very meticulous about the plan, because if things go wrong, you need to have a framework to work off of, right? So I think that's one of the biggest pieces of advice is that plan ahead. And if it feels like it's ridiculous that you're planning how long the break in your event is and what needs to happen in an event, you probably should do it. Because you never know, like there's other cases where, say, for example, you're the host and you can't log on and you have to get someone else to start your event for you. Then what are they going to be doing for your event? Like they don't have a game plan or a playbook. So I just really encourage all of my clients and people that I work with, and even for my events, to really have that game plan in place, that if, God forbid, anything happens to you, someone can pick up where you left off.
Yeah, it's really good that you say that. So would you recommend having maybe like a second person kind of there as your backup?
Yeah. So with every event, at least having a second is super important. And for me, I typically play that role for clients where I'll be an event support or a moderator for an event. For me, hosting events, I have a team of 10. So yeah, for a 60-person event, 60 to 100 people virtually, I usually have at least eight or nine volunteers. Granted, like we have a very strong volunteer event staff circle, because we work with people that have attended our events and are real ambassadors of the brand. We work with them to get them a chance to have that behind the scenes. But at least having one other person with you, it really helps with things running smoothly. So especially if you're the host, it's difficult to welcome your guests in, be the one that's emceeing, and also run all the tech. Like that's where I tend to see a lot of like, okay, hold on, guys, just give me a second here, just gonna share. Like that's where a lot of that happens. And although it's like people are accommodating, but it also becomes a time waster, because that can equate to 10 minutes of your event that you're spending trying to get the tech up. Whereas if you had a moderator that had access to do your share screens and run your polls and help with comments, then you're able to be professional and be that host, and you have like your sidekick behind the scenes that's helping everything move smoothly. And they're basing that off of the plan and all of the assets that you've given them ahead of time. So I think preparation before you go virtually is like the number one thing, and having at least 1 or 2 people that can help gain that energy in your comments, the ones that are really techie that can help you with that. And if anything goes wrong or you get kicked off, they can take over. I know it has happened where someone who's a host, their internet drops off and they're now not in their meeting, and everyone is still in the meeting because the meeting is live on Zoom or whatever platform you're using. But now it's like, you need to have that second that knows if this happens, this is what needs to happen next, right? And it's right. Definitely happened during events where someone's computer has died or Wi-Fi has conked out, and like someone else just had to jump in and fill in their space. But if you don't have that plan together, then you can't really combat that. So yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah, it's like I can see that from the in-person perspective, right? Like I can see there's so many things to do, but if it's your first time going live or hosting a virtual event, you will not know all the working parts. And you might think people is, I just need to sign in to Zoom. I need to put some breakout rooms and tell everyone to put their reactions in right in the chat, and I'm okay. Like I'm good.
Yeah, and in theory, that's like typically what you're doing.
Yeah,
but there's all of these roadblocks that can come up for all of those different things. Like what happens if the breakout room, you're not able to launch it? Like we've had to switch host and co-host in the middle of event. Like there's a lot that happens behind the scenes. Like even that mixer that we were just on, like there were tech issues happening. You guys probably couldn't tell because you guys probably couldn't tell, but
it was smooth to me.
It was smooth, but that's because we put in a very like meticulous plan and like had our plan Bs. Like if this happens, this is what we need to do. So, and I think that's what will really help you shine in virtual events and in live events, is like really having that plan and having your key players in place to pick up the slack. And
yeah, so many things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
My next question for you is, what platforms would you recommend for going online? And what are some features that you use for the BizMixer virtually?
Okay, loaded question. So my question to people whenever they ask, is the most asked question, is what platform should I use? Is what is the intent of your event? Like, what do you plan to do for your event? So for some people, a Zoom meeting is perfectly fine. They already have the platform. If the client already has a platform and it can work for their event, I never like to recommend going out and getting another membership. It just doesn't really make sense. So say, for example, you want an event where it's speakers that are just talking and your audience doesn't have much interaction, maybe using Zoom webinar, or there's Demio, there's what other platforms? There's Brella, like there's all of these different platforms, and I can leave a list of ones in the group chat if that will help people. But I think starting with what your event intent is, or what are the features of your event. So to give an example, I have a client who does an event where they do speed networking, they have a vendor marketplace, and they have speakers. So with them, we're using Hopin because they have a speed networking opportunity there. So the networking piece happens. There's a trade show feature. So all of the vendors buy their spots. They're able to do one-on-one meetings with all of the attendees live through video. And then they have the stage where all of the workshops and breakouts can happen. So with that type of event that needs so many different features, Zoom wouldn't have been the best choice for them. Where it would have been the easiest one, and they already have Zoom, it wouldn't have been the best fit. So you really got to think about, what are the features of your event? What things do you need your platform to be able to do? And then work backwards. But I can definitely list some options for different types. I know a lot of people are doing webinars, or they just want to do networking events, or they have like larger virtual conferences they want to do. So I can definitely leave some links for people, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Yeah, that's really good to know. I actually, I love the structure of one that you had recommended to me, that you worked on the team where there was a Slack channel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
That was amazing to me. It just flowed so well. But of course, there was a big team behind that. So
yeah. And that was all Zoom webinar. Webinar and Zoom meeting. So it's sometimes not even about the platform, it's how you leverage the platform too.
Right.
So that conference, they use Zoom webinar and Slack for all of the conversations as a way of having each session had a different channel and people could engage with other attendees of that workshop or breakout session. Super cool. They had a whole floor plan for the channel, so you kind of knew what the flow of the event was. It was amazing. So
yeah. You were there, and then I ended off with the calligraphy in the evening. So I'm like, I just love that aspect of it, the creative side. It's not just like learning all day.
And I think that's an important part too, where like how can you instill fun into your event and have that wow aspect where people can have a break from the content but do something fun and different online. So yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yeah, that really stood out to me.
Yeah.
I'm getting into, actually first, what are some features that you use for the BIS Mixer virtually? So anything like, do you use breakout rooms, the hand holding, like?
Yeah. We love breakout rooms at the BIS Mixer because our community likes to talk. So the first time we did our event in March, I allotted like 15, 20 minutes and they had the conversations, brought them all back. And I said, because I believe in live feedback too. So I unmuted everybody and I said, hey, like, how was that? I had someone pipe up and be like, that wasn't enough time, Karlena. We need more time. So live at the event, someone's just like, yeah, we wouldn't need like another 10 minutes. So then that was great. So the next time we had more time for the breakout rooms. But for those of you that are listening in that don't know what the breakout rooms are for Zoom, it essentially allows you to have your full group be in a main space, and then you're able to create a certain number of rooms where everyone can go off into small groups to talk and have that more one-on-one that would typically happen in a live event. So you could have them as small as 2 people in a group or as large as I think I've done up to 10, breaking up people into rooms, but you can accommodate a lot of people in the breakout rooms. And it's a really great way to have that more one-on-one connection through people. And yeah, breakout rooms have been great. We do use the hand function. So it can be chaotic once you get to 50 to 75, 100 people in a Zoom call. It can be a bit much to have everybody talking. So just setting those ground rules, like I always tell my clients, like set your housekeeping rules and how things will run. So things as simple as saying like, make sure that you're muted when you're on. Sometimes people don't think that, and then you have all of this background noise and it's so awkward and you have to try and like mute the person. So just having your housekeeping rules like that. And one thing we implemented in one of my clients' events recently is the raise hand function. So making sure that people feel like they have a voice and they can participate and in a way that's more structured. So people can raise their hand and then you kind of unmute them and they can give their piece. And also keeping in mind that not all of your attendees are going to feel comfortable coming on and talking. Some people will be the kings and queens of your chat. So really having that integration between the two and, being a good moderator and not only creating space for people that are using the voice mic option, but bringing in the comments from the chat box into the main conversation. So you as a facilitator or host can bring those comments into the conversation.
Yeah, the chat box is amazing. When I'm hosting the networking events and it starts to kind of get quieter towards the end because we've kind of gone through everything, I just turn to the chat and I'm like, okay, what's everyone talking about in there? And then pull out because sometimes there's side conversations. Yeah. It's really interesting. I think we actually had a question around that. I'm going to pull it up here because we had quite a few. Our first one here is some tips on how to encourage participation. Sometimes it gets very quiet in the virtual space.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to sit up because this is my favorite part. It's like engaging events online. It really comes like lead by example. And I know it probably sounded a little bit outrageous that we have a team of 8 that help us on every event, but their main job is like the energy people. Like they're like the party patrol. So their role is really to be in the comments. When they're in the breakout rooms, they're helping lead and facilitate that conversation. Not as an official, I'm the facilitator of the group. It's literally like, no, your job is like when we break out to rooms and we have questions, your job is to start the conversation and keep conversations going. So it's really about leading by example and how they enter the room that makes a huge difference. So for us, we have an in-house virtual DJ. We had a DJ at our live event, so we're like, why not? So when people come in, they're hearing live mixed music. And that mixed music, to take another layer further, because I'm extra, we have a collaborative Spotify playlist. So we let our community add music to our Spotify playlist. It's it's almost 30 hours long now.
Wow.
And what we do is the DJ actually chooses music from that playlist. So it's curated to the audience. So people are hearing the music that they actually submitted to the playlist.
I love that.
So yeah, it's a small thing that people feel like they have a piece of your event. And I think that's really important. When they feel that engagement, they feel like they're seen by you. That's when people want to buy into what you're doing. And I've been through a bunch of training when it comes to virtual events. And one thing they say is, until somebody engages with the event, whether that's through chat box, by raising their hand, or by talking, they're not fully engaged in the event. So when people come into our event, we have a slide that's up that basically tells people like, hey, let us know where you're from in the chat box. So like getting people to actively do something as soon as they come into the event. One, you're introducing them to a feature of the platform. So for those people who aren't used to it, they can kind of orient themselves in that time. Then people are seeing, oh, like that person's from a similar city or they're close by. So you're finding a way for them to connect with each other. They're not realizing it's happening, but these are the ninja tips. I'm giving you the ninja tips right now. So they don't know that you're doing that, not only to find out where your people are tuning into, which is really great for someone like you, Christina, that focuses on sponsorship, to be able to see like how vast your community is. You're getting people to give you that data in like a low boundary way. Some people in the comments will say, oh, I'm also from Toronto, or I'm also from this place. They're connecting with each other before you've even started the event. So little things like that, I think how people enter the event and your energy really, really matters. So if you're not super energetic or video, or you can't really capture an audience on video, get an MC that does, because you need that. You need someone, you need someone that when they come in, you're gonna be like, welcome to the event, thanks for coming in, like tuning in. And like, as people are tuning in, like that's what I do. Like, hey, nice to see you here. Glad that you're here. Welcome to the event. Like literally for the full 10 minutes. Like if you listen, you'll probably get annoyed, but it's a part of people feeling like they're welcomed in the chat and welcomed as an attendee. It's similar to when you have a house party. When people come into your house, do you greet them, or you just let them come in and just help themselves without even saying hi, right? So I think those little things that we're used to doing live, find a way to do that virtually, because people will feel that sense of welcome and warm environment if you pretty much use your manners. So yeah.
What was that?
Yeah. Just use your manners. Just have manners. Yeah.
I wanted to ask too, like, do you find that a lot of your clients are mapping what they've done live into the virtual aspect, or have they had to switch a lot of ideas over?
Yeah, it really depends. Like I have a couple clients that were doing like tournaments and stuff like that. We probably can't translate very well to an online space, but what I've basically recommended to a lot of these clients is, okay, we can't do the event in that space, so that event we have to postpone. But I also don't advise that we wait 6 months or however long it's going to take to be able to have that many people gather in a space to connect with your audience. So if that means you do smaller events where it's literally just meetups, social based or educational based, what can you do in the meantime that keeps your audience engaged until you can do that live event at the grand scale that you're wanting to do it at? It's really important, because this is the worst time to ghost your community and your audience, because you can't translate your event fully to virtual. I think it's the worst thing. And it's also like the worst excuse. It's like, oh, we can't do the event virtually, so we won't do anything at all. I'm like, no, you still need to do something to keep them top of mind. And I think as a community leader, as an event organizer that has an audience, it's your responsibility to show up for them, right? In whatever way that means. So whether that's through emails, or you're doing videos now, or you're doing something that kind of keeps them engaged, it's your job to show up for them and figure it out pretty much. So yeah.
I agree. This is the most I've probably ever shown up.
Yeah.
Like, this is when the community is asking me so many questions and turning to me, so I have to show up as that person who can help. And especially when you have a big community, you want to have different avenues to help them out. So like I have the virtual networking, I've got these interviews, content coming out. So yeah, I think it's really important to take a step back and be like, how am I showing up in my community? Yeah.
And if you show up, your community will show up for you back. So Yeah.
So true. Yeah. And then when everything transitions back to live, it's just going to be a better turnout, and that trust is going to be there.
Yeah.
Coming to your events. Because I feel like before it was kind of like, do I really want to go out? Like, but now we just want to go everywhere.
There's going to be a floodgate of people that are going to be ready to just go and meet people. And I think it's really going to matter who showed up during this time and who, for whatever reason, just it didn't come to fruition for them to do it. And I mean, I believe in that balance between like, this is a good time for everyone to get rest. Like I know for me, I'm always on the go. So this has been a good time for me to slow down and do that self-care. But at the same time, I know that I have a responsibility to my community. So it's just the name of the game. So you got to find a way to do it so you can care for both.
So true.
Yeah.
I have another question too. Let me take a look here. This is a really good question. In a crowded space, because it is quite crowded now, we have live streams going from Facebook, IG, we have webinars everywhere. There's so much going on. So in a crowded space, how would you define a virtual event that really stands out? So like, what advice would you give to someone who really wants to stand out right now?
Yeah. Honestly, thinking outside of the box, thinking of new experiences. And I think the biggest thing is knowing your audience, like know what they want, or better yet, ask them.
Ask them
what they want. Like, for example, and the live feedback part, like when we did our event and we were trying out the virtual DJ thing, we had people say like, that was the best part of the whole event. I'm like, y'all, it was a 2.5 event of pure content. And like, you're literally just like, yeah, the DJ was the best part. I'm like, okay, we're doing more DJ sets then and finding a way to incorporate that. For this month's event, a lot of people in our community love Afrobeats and soca music. So we're doing a soca stretch. So we have a soca instructor that's coming to do a 5-minute soca experience for people online. So just really listening to your audience and asking them what they want to see. So whether that's by content or by other things they want to try out, is I think when you know your audience, then you can provide what they want and they will show up for it. I think that's the biggest thing, is knowing and asking and getting feedback. So at the end of every event we do feedback for them. So we have people, we ask maybe like 7 or 8 questions of what they enjoyed best, what they want to see, anything down to the time length, or time of day of week, and just sticking with that. And also with the experimentation, staying true to what your brand typically does.
Yeah.
So for example, we always do our events the last Saturday of every month at like 6:00. So people know that, right? When we were doing events for 2020, we tried to do, okay, we'll do Saturday, but like in the afternoon. And we posted it and literally I got called out. Like I had 2 or 3 people be like, message me directly and be like, I thought the event is usually Saturday at 6. Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll change it back. It's not happening. I thought that maybe 2:00 would be a better time for people to get things done and like have the evening, but they were like, no, we're good with the time. Don't change it. So sometimes even you might think you know best for your audience, but your audience, they know what they want. And like people will adjust to whatever the common thing is across that your audience wants to have. So in terms of sticking out online, I guess, long-winded answer, but just figure out what your audience wants and maybe something that they've never experienced before. So just really keeping up with trends. There's a lot of platforms that you can see event trends. One that I can think of right now off the top of my head, BizBash, they're really good at doing a lot of blogging content. They also have a podcast that they talk about what event organizers and managers are doing. So you can get a lot of good ideas from that podcast to see what people are doing across the world that maybe you could incorporate it into your events as well. And there's also a book called The Art of Gathering. So the art of gathering people together. A lot of great tips inside of that book as well. So there's a lot of great resources and podcasts that you can kind of get some ideas from other event organizers that may work for your events too. And I make it a point of duty to also attend a lot of other events. And so if I see something cool, I'll be like, oh, would this be something that maybe my audience will like? How can I spin that? So for example, there was a live painter, digital painter at that event. For us, it's like people might like art, but I know a graffiti artist. So maybe like my spin on that is we have a graffiti artist that's teaching something. You know what I mean? So just figure out the ideas, things that you enjoy, and think about how you can put your own spin on it, or if it's something that your audience will like, or ask them.
It's so important that you mentioned that because in doing sponsorship, one thing that I see a lot is people going to events and looking at what sponsors that event has, and then rushing off to reach out to the same sponsors, because in their minds they're thinking, oh, well, if that sponsor gave money there, they're more likely to give to me. And while it might be true, you also have to look and see, does that sponsor even fit into your brand?
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Same coming up with experiences, like, yes, you love the painting, but is that something your community would like? How can you change that up? And that's how you keep the uniqueness of your events. I think it's really important, like, especially in Toronto, we see a lot of the same type of events, right? I do panel events, so I know when people come to them, they're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be the same thing again. Like, it's going to be just sitting down and whatever. But every time someone leaves, they tell me, I made such good connections because I did something different. Like, I did some matchmaking, or I like really went in and like asked them, what are the actual questions you want to hear the panelists answer? So,
it's really important. I think sometimes we get so caught up in what we want to do for events and executing our grand ideas. Not to say our ideas aren't grand, but a lot of the time, if you're looking for your participants to, or your attendees to be a part of the event, it's kind of like, why wouldn't you plan your event to accommodate to your audience, right? Like, it's like you could do whatever you want at your event, but for the attendee experience, and really leading with the intent, like, why are you doing this event? What do you want to accomplish? Thinking about the attendees' experience, like, are they going to resonate towards this? Are they going to like this? And like keeping that open feedback. I think that's one thing that we get feedback a lot from the Biz Mixer is someone will DM me about things and I'll be like, yeah, let's do it. And then the content, the topics, whatever we're talking about is somebody from the community that has mentioned it. Like, I had a call today with one of our biz fam that literally was like, can you do a event on e-commerce? And I was like, well, I've thought about it, but now you're saying that we should, like, I would love to see that. Literally, they sent me all the questions they would want to have answered, and we collaborated on what the event would be like. So with things like that, collaborating with your community and your audience, they will have the buy-in. So now when we launch that event, somebody from the community has suggested, and I literally sat down with them and talked about what they want to see. Do you think those people are going to be the ambassadors now to share it, to be like, hey, like, this event's happening, and like I spoke to Karlena or the team and they put together an event based off of what I asked for? That's how you create that community that will show up for you and will be an ambassador of what you're doing when they feel like they're heard and they're seen.
Yeah, so true. Feedback is huge. So I like that you mentioned that. So when you're done your like virtual events with the Biz Mixer, how do you get feedback? Do you have like a link to go to the survey?
So we do two things. So we send an email out to thank people for coming to the event, and we have a resource folder. So that's one thing that actually started from someone asking for it. People always ask for slides. They always ask for the resource. So we've created a way where we have a Google Drive folder that's specific to that event, that we only share that link with the attendees, and they have access to the recordings. They have access to the slides. I know you've gotten that email too, so you've seen it.
I have it. When I look through it,
Yeah, so that's pretty much what we do in terms of like reaching out to people. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, it does. Yeah, I just wondered, like, what was your post-event sort of process like? So
and then the link to the Google form too. So we create a Google form for every single event, and then we encourage people to fill that out. We also go on our social and encourage people to fill that out. So people that we know have attended, we say, hey, like, thank you for attending the event. Here's the link to the Google Drive. Here's the link to the survey. We'd love to hear your feedbacks to help us plan the next event. And you'll at least have a good percentage of your people will fill it out.
Yeah, especially if they've been there more than once and they know kind of how it goes and the structure. Yeah, it's definitely helpful to have that. And then again, you're just going to be creating more and more experiences centered around those people, and then the community will grow. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, such a sweet way to approach it.
It is, and it's so simple. If you're like, oh, how can I create a great experience? Just ask your audience. Give the people what they want, and they will show up for you.
So true. I've been doing that too with Femme Evolve, just asking, like, what kind of content does everyone want to see? And that's why I put up that post about when you have 100 different business ideas, what do you do? Because people have been asking me, oh my God, like, I'm excited right now, but I don't know where to start. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to put content out around that if that's what you want to see. And I'm going to chill out with the events a little bit and more on that, and then bring them back a little bit later and see what everyone thinks. You just keep playing around with it. And
I mean, especially as event organizers, you have the agency and the power to always do something different. Like sometimes people will ask, like, oh, so what's the typical structure? I'm like, this is a typical structure, but that can change from month to month based on what people want to see. And if we come up with a really cool idea, you have the full creativity to create something new every time, a new experience. Yeah.
True.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so true. And then my last question for you is, what do you envision for the future of the BizMixers events, post-COVID, I should say?
Yeah, I guess like one thing that we were already thinking about as a team is doing more quarterly events and not, because it's a lot to do monthly events. We started in 2018 and we've done an event every single month with the exception of December straight.
Wow.
So it's almost like you're doing one, and by the time you close the doors of one event, you're back into marketing the next one. So I usually plan the BizMixers about 3 to 4 months, wrapping up the rest of 2020 right now, but I plan it far in advance for content, but then you're having to consistently market, which can be tiring. So what we're planning to do, or what we're kind of dabbling with, is doing that hybrid structure.
Yeah.
So now that we've gotten our audience used to tuning in online, doing a monthly virtual event isn't as much work per se as doing a live event. So doing those more like quarterly events, summits. I really want to do a two-day conference for the BizMixer.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
It's been on my mind for at least a year and a half to do a 2-day summit because we have so many speakers. We've had over 30 speakers. Like there's so many experts that we know that could give great value. So kind of leveraging that hybrid where we have people who can tune in monthly from all across the world. And then we have those quarterly events where we can kind of meet up in person. So that's kind of what the vision is for the next year, I guess you could say, is to start rolling that out. But just really leveraging technology and having that hybrid event structure, and again giving what the people want, and still being true to why we started. So like keeping it local to our neighborhood, but then having that opportunity for those people outside of that space that don't want to travel. And granted, we do have people that travel from Niagara Falls to Mississauga and Newmarket. And like people do travel because they see the value and they love the community, but giving them that option to say like, hey, if you're not able to do the drive or it's just not lining up to make it all the way out, giving people that opportunity to have that virtual experience, whether that's on the day of the event where you have a virtual tune in for a live event, or just having an event that's totally online. So I think that's where we're going to see a lot of events moving, even across the industry. A lot of
I'm in the same boat. I'm considering the same thing. Once a month, virtual networking, and then keeping up our 4 to 6 other sort of in-person meetups, because it's just, for me, it's too much to do monthly. I know that I can't.
Yeah, it's a lot. I don't know how I was doing live events every single month on top of my clients' events and working at Instagram experiences. I don't know how I was doing it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because you were also working other jobs, so it's a lot to balance. Yeah, you definitely feel it. I think having the online component is good, and you can still cover topics that everyone's asking for.
Exactly.
In that frame. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then my very last question for you is, do you have any events that you're working on right now? Anything else that you're working on that you want to share with anyone watching?
Yeah. Lots of things are happening. So I alluded to it a little bit earlier in our conversation, but the BizMixer Instagram page just hit 500 BizFam members. I'm super excited about that. So it's super exciting to have 500 BizFam peeps in the community. It's a great accomplishment. I'm super grateful for everyone that supports us. So in honor of that, we're actually running a ticket giveaway for our next event as a celebratory thing. So if you go onto our Instagram page at the BizMixer, you will see that giveaway right now. And our next event is on May the 30th. So it's going to be Saturday, May the 30th at 6 p.m. Saturday of the month at 6 p.m. We're sticking to it. They've told me not to change. We're going to be talking about branding, influencer marketing, and how to build a community around your brand. So a lot of the things we touched on today, it was a 3-part deal. So we have Mafuz of Candy Box Marketing. It's one of Canada's fastest growing countries. They're going to be, I have a call coming through. Sorry, everybody. they can't see that I'm live. So we have branding, influencer marketing, and community building. So we have Mahfouz from Candy Box Marketing. They're one of Canada's fastest growing digital agencies. So he's going to be talking about branding for your business and how you can use your personal brand to grow your audience through podcasting. He's a podcaster, he's an author, he does a lot of great stuff. And he's definitely one of our top 5 speakers. So he's spoke at the event before, and I still use the tips from that session, and I still have people say, hey, like, when's Mahfouz coming back? So he's going to dive deep into that conversation. And then we also have Mr. Social Eats. So if you're really big on Instagram food bloggers, Kiefer is going to be talking about influencer marketing. So he works with companies that want to use influencers, and he's also an influencer himself. So he's going to be talking about how he's been able to grow his account to over 11,000 engaged people. Wow. And how he's been able to build a community around a brand. So that's going to be really great. And then we have our friends over at JF Images. They do a lot for visual. So they do all of our visual and photos for the BizMixer event. So they're going to be talking about how you can create content that your audience will love. If you take a look at their platform, you will see that they are really good at their job. They really get visuals.
Yeah, so, you guys have beautiful pictures.
Beautiful pictures and
videos. Yeah.
And videos. So they're going to be talking about how you can use your smartphone to create content that your audience will love and that they want to share. So it's going to be a packed event. We're already planning to do some spin-off workshops because we know we're not going to get through all the information. But in true BizMixer Karlena form, we pack the value in. And we just want to make sure when people show up, they feel like they got way more than their money's worth, and they feel like it was a steal. I just believe in value first. So May 30th, that's our event that's coming up. And then for Mini K Creations, my event planning company, I am opening up the next 2 weeks of my calendar to do 15-minute chats. I know I've spoken with some of the people in the Toronto Professional.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's so awesome.
Yeah. So I've been able to hop on some chats with people to just do like a 10, 15-minute, tell me what your event's about, what are you struggling with right now, and give a couple recommendations. And for those of you that want to dive in deeper, I actually do consultation for our virtual events. So pretty much talking about that event flow that we spoke about before. So like how to structure your event from top to bottom, create something templated that somebody else could take and execute your event. And I do that customized to whatever event you're doing. So if you're interested in either of those things, feel free to reach out to me. And if you want to learn more about branding and marketing and how to build a community around your brand to have a bunch of fans and engaged audience, definitely come up on May 30th.
Sounds great. Well, thank you. Yeah, I'll be sure to check that out. And also I'll link it for anyone who's watching so they can check it out, because I think there's going to be a lot of great value in there as always.
And if you're interested in attending, the giveaway is happening until Monday. So definitely.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Participate in the giveaway at the BizMixer on Instagram, and maybe you'll win a ticket for you and a friend to attend.
That's awesome. Yeah. So good that you did that, and congrats again on hitting 500. That's really exciting.
I'm excited.
I love it. Well, thank you again for taking the time to chat with me and for showing me StreamYard. It's our first time using this. I'm usually on Zoom. I feel kind of sad that I've had to transition from Zoom, but we'll see. I'll play around, but if not, I know StreamYard's got my back now.
Yeah. Having a plan B, the plan B is important, Christina.
Exactly. That's what I learned today. Virtual events always have a plan B. So
thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to connecting with you all. Thanks.
Thank you. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Bye.